Welcome to another Snackisode.
So tasty, so yummy, so good.
And what are we snacking on today? Another emotion?
And not just any emotion. We're talking about two.
If anger and fear had a baby, they would have twins.
Oh.
And it would be jealousy and envy.
This is going to be quite a tasty snackisode,
Yes.
dare I say. Because there's a lot around jealousy and envy. And I mean, envy is one of the 7 deadly sins that we hear about, right? What might we be learning today?
How they're maybe not all that bad.
Oh.
Just like any emotion, they can be used negatively, but they're not always used negatively. It's what you do with them.
Dang.
So, just to differentiate from the start, jealousy is the relational radar, McLaren calls it, and envy is the interactional radar. And so jealousy is about the health and stability of your friendships and love relationships, and so like anyone that you're close to.
Or like proximate to.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
like in the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And envy is about establishing and preserving social position and material security. And so you could say jealousy protects the close relationships you have, and envy protects possessions, and power.
Hey.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, so it's interesting. We say that they're like, because they're more in the fear family, but they also have elements of anger in them, because they're both like boundary setting and sensing what's going on and how you should respond to it. So they're both anger and fear. So,
which I really like that, because it offers this mindset of, jealousy and envy aren't necessarily bad. Like, they're not bad emotions. They can give us more information about stuff.
Yeah.
And understanding that anger tends to be protective and say, a boundary of yours has been broken, or you're not being treated in the way that you deserve or would like to be treated. Jealousy and envy can do the same for us.
Yeah, I like
cool.
that.
They're kind of like with the whole idea of this being a guide for us living a complete life. They're like little flags of, hey,
something's going on here.
Yeah. And also, I love how you described both. It seems like jealousy is very much, it shows up in relationships. It's very focused on people and the interactions we have.
Right.
While envy is more of the objects or materials. Like, it might have some elements of a relationship that pops up, but it's more of like towards an object.
Yeah. Or a position, a social position.
Yeah, like privilege. And, yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting how jealousy and envy can sometimes work together as you're like picking a partner, because you want a social position, so you want to marry someone with a certain social position, but you also want someone that'll be faithful to you. So jealousy and envy can work together to secure both those. That thought just came to me.
I can see that. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll start with jealousy. When you feel jealousy, what questions should you ask it, Brooke?
Well, there are 2. Get ready, folks. Question number 1 is, what kind of intimacy do I desire and want to offer? Love that question. Very specific, very helpful to think through. Number 2, what betrayals must be recognized and healed? It makes me think of some experiences I've had in the past year.
Yeah.
And that lands for me, especially what kind of intimacy or connection do I want?
Yeah, because I think I really like the kind of intimacy do I desire, like you were saying, because it helps set up expectations, because it's like, I want this kind of relationship with my mom, but she's not interested with that kind of relationship. And
Sure,
so, like, how do I change how I think about it, or how do I set boundaries to say, Mom, I would like you to
Mm.
see me or in a different way or do different things.
Yeah.
Or it could be like, I thought that me and this guy were going steady, but he seems to not think that. And so it's like, what kind of intimacy do I desire with this person, and what am I getting, and how? Yeah.
Yeah. And also, how do I hope that people see me? What do I want people
Yeah.
to do for me? Like, how do I want others to show up for me? How can I show up for others? And it's the whole thing of, oh, well, most of the time you give what you receive, and also people just get stuck in their heads and do their own thing anyway.
Yeah.
And you can still get hurt. And most of the time, people's choices, people's behavior, it's not personal to us. It's not personal to you. Just as more about where they are, right?
Yeah.
Still hurts though for us.
Still hurts.
But that's when the questions come into play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the different levels for jealousy. The soft level is concerned, connected, insecure. Medium is distrustful, jealous, lonely, or loving. Intense is lustful, passionate, or possessive. What do you think?
I like those because it shows how jealousy helps you be like concerned about your relationship and protective of them, but it also helps you love someone in your relationship.
Yeah, it helps us be sensitive to their needs.
Yeah.
And like how do I want to be treated? How does this person want to be treated? How can I show them that love and hopefully create better intimacy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the distrustful piece, something that came to mind was more often than not, when I see others interacting in certain ways that I crave for, it's like, oh, I also want to be buddies with you, or laugh together, or maybe you're teasing me, or you're asking me how my weekend was. And I see them doing that with other people, but they don't do it with me. I'm like, oh, I want to be treated that way too, right? Like, and so to see other people extend that connection, that care to others, but not to ourselves, can definitely leave us in this distressful space.
Yeah.
So that's another interesting thing. So it's like, okay, what helps me trust someone? That's a really good question to be asking ourselves of, what does someone do to create trust with me? And that's a two-way street.
Yeah. I like that. And I feel like that kind of goes into our next point, that jealousy helps you choose relationship partners. And I thought about this a lot, like, when I was dating. One of the things that I didn't, like, explicitly think, but kind of thought was, like, will this person be someone that will be faithful to me, that will offer the kind of intimacy I need?
Yeah, sure.
And will be the kind of partner I need in my life. And I think jealousy's there, and it asks those things so that you don't get hurt later, right? And a lot of people don't ask that enough in their relationships, and I think it causes negative spirals.
Well, take for example a married couple. A lot of times in grad school, I hear about couples who have had betrayals, or, there was cheating, or maybe one partner was engaging in an activity that was against the other partner's values. They found out, and it was this big betrayal moment. And they also felt jealous of the object or the person their spouse was focused on and hiding from them. And that jealousy is there saying, yeah, you got hurt. You weren't taken care of, and you really value a partner who keeps you safe, that you trust, that you feel at home with, that's your teammate. Like, jealousy can point out how you want to be treated.
Yeah. And helps you find a partner that is going to treat you that way, or set boundaries with your partner so you can be treated that way.
Yeah.
And so when you do feel jealousy, it's a time to say, okay, what boundaries need to be set, or what where do me and my partner's expectations not meet up, and how can we better clarify that?
Yeah.
being in a relationship is a super vulnerable position, or any of these close relationships is very vulnerable. And so jealousy is there to protect you, because you're kind of exposing your whole self to someone.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so jealousy is kind of this little watchtower that says, am I going to get hurt here? And what can I do to prevent that hurt? Maybe set some boundaries. Or is this someone that I shouldn't even start a relationship with?
Yeah.
Right. It's your little, they have their little binoculars out there.
That's a really cute. Yeah. That's a good analogy. My brain likes that. And it also connects with the second question of, okay, like what betrayals need to be recognized and healed? Because if a person's worth it, if a relationship's worth it enough to you,
Yeah.
you can speak up, you can have a crucial conversation.
Yeah.
You can be brave.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to take a step back and think
Right.
about those things.
Yeah, and so I hope you're starting to see that, like, jealousy isn't bad, right? Jealousy is protecting you and the ones you love most, and helps you navigate close personal relationships. One of the ways that jealousy can be problematic is if you are very insecure, and so you interpret a lot of things as betrayals when really you just have like this deep insecurity. And that's when I think you should probably go to therapy, because there's jealousy that can come from threats, and jealousy that can come from just having struggles with attachment or deep insecurity that just makes you feel like not worthy to be loved, so you feel jealous about everything, and that's super painful to be in. And that's when you need to get therapy.
Yes, to work on that, right?
Yeah.
Because if we're always sensitive and just this raw nerve reacting to every little and big thing, that's not going to be helpful for us, for our peace of mind, our growth, or, you know, all the things that we're hoping to accomplish in our lives. So it's good to be able to recognize that of, ooh, how much of this is me? Which is uncomfortable. Like, that's, I've been there. It's uncomfortable. Like, oh, I just had a reaction. I really did not like that. I didn't like what they said. I didn't like how they treated me. Or I feel left out because I saw these two awesome people I respect and admire get really close and connect, but I'm just sitting right next to them in the hopes of connecting. And when I tried to reach out, they didn't engage as much.
Right.
And then they show so much warmth to each other. And I'm here, I'm like, I just want to make friends. Don't forget about me. And in this moment, I could either take it to, why do I try? Like, this is awful. Everybody doesn't like me. Like, getting really insecure.
Yeah.
And then personalizing it. Or I could take a step back and say, I'm feeling things, including sadness, jealousy, frustration, loneliness, anger. Okay. That's okay. I wonder why that is. What are my feelings telling me? Maybe it's really not personal. Seems like they're just a lot more comfortable with each other, and maybe their personality and skills aren't such that they can give more.
Yeah. Or they're not even aware of it.
Yep. Because I've come to learn, not everyone is as thoughtful as me.
As we might hope.
Yeah, or as we might hope. Yeah. And that's okay. Like, differences, right? Some people are tougher. Like, we can be tougher too, and we can be very blind. I can be very blind. It's like, it's just, you don't know what you don't know.
We all have our blind spots. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to envy.
Okay.
So once again, it's our interactional radar. It establishes and preserves power, position, and possessions. And so this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it also looks at that in other people. It can see wealth inequalities and people that don't have power and wanting to help them get more power, right? And you need resources, and you need a certain amount of power, and you need a certain amount of possessions, right?
Well, it's like survivability to an extent.
And so the problem is when envy gets to the point that you get really greedy, or envy becomes focused on yourself rather than yourself and others. And so you start taking and taking and taking so other people don't have resources. That is out of balance envy. And I think it's a little bit too common, right?
Yeah. Well, it causes more pain.
Yeah.
Because those who are more vulnerable and marginalized, if people in positions of privilege and power keep taking or turning a blind eye,
yeah,
that's just going to hurt others more. And it causes problems. It doesn't actually fix anything. It doesn't heal.
So if your envy is at the point that you're taking from people that don't have, then your envy is out of balance, right? And that's when envy gets its name as one of the 7 deadly sins, because then it is really, really bad, right? And destroys societies and lives. But envy doesn't have to be like that, and it can be something that fights for equality. Yeah. So
I'm just thinking of the Inside Out 2 little envy character.
Oh yeah,
she has these big eyes and they're sparkly,
and she's like, I want to be on that team. I want that hair.
It's like, oh, I admire that. I think it's well, shall we do the questions?
Yes, let's do the questions.
Okay. So the questions for envy are: 1, what resources and security do I desire for myself and others? 2, what inequalities must be made right? Which I really like because it's like this justice perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
The levels for soft, we have fair, protective, or wanting. And I don't think any of those are bad things, right? It's wanting to protect others, is wanting to be fair. And we all have wants, right?
Yeah.
And then medium is covetous, generous, envious, equitable. And then intense is affluent, deprived, or greedy. And so when you get into medium and intense, it can be less healthy if you don't balance it with fairness, right? Envy is cool because it helps you to know what you want. Like we talked with Inside Out too. Envy is always like, oh, I want that. I want to be on the hockey team.
The red streak.
Right. I want to be in that social group because they seem nice, right?
Yeah. I want to belong. I want to...
Yeah. And those aren't bad things to want. In McLaren's book, she talks about how you can honor soft level envy by doing things like making goals and vision boards and mission statements, saying, I want these things and this is how I can get them.
Which is so interesting because, so I have a friend who does a lot of vision boards and I love seeing them. They're really cool. And there's this feeling of, wow, you're dreaming.
Yeah.
You're getting excited. You're giving yourself permission to hope and get excited about life. Like to be passionate about your interests and your dreams.
Envy's at work.
Yeah. It's interesting to see that because like to me, having a vision board can be a very positive, inspiring thing.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of envy that shows up there.
Yeah. Huh. But it's not, that shows envy isn't always bad, right?
Yeah. Case in point.
One difficult thing is with envy is like if you're at your job, you've worked there for a long time, you're doing your best, you want to move up in the company, and this new young person comes in and somehow like figures everything out and like gets promotions that you feel like you should have gotten, you can get a lot of envy. And it's easy in that moment to try and tear that person down with gossiping or backstabbing or whatever it may be. But that's not a healthy use of your envy, right? And it's probably just going to tear you down because your superiors are going to be like, this person's being ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And so what's better to do is you can use your envious energy and use it to do boundary setting. Say, talk to your boss maybe and be like, hey, I've worked at this for a long time and I don't understand why this is happening. What am I doing wrong? Why am I being overlooked? And then also organizing yourself for success, saying, okay, what did this person moved up ahead of me, and what do I need to change so I can be more successful? So like focusing it on yourself and what you can control rather than trying to tear someone else down so you can move up.
And that is a huge sign of maturity and flexibility.
Yeah.
Because it's so different from tearing someone down, criticizing, having contempt, right?
Yeah.
which isn't healthy. That's not going to build bridges anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, people will just be like, ugh, I really don't enjoy being this person's coworker or, friend or...
Yeah.
Right?
It's not making it better for anyone when you tear people down.
Yeah.
Like that.
So instead of calling people out, call them in.
Yeah.
And, have a...
Try and navigate things with them and talk.
Yeah,
with
build
them
bridges.
Build bridges. And I think, honestly, as a superior, I'd be much more impressed with that than I would be with you tearing them down, obviously.
Yeah, or tattletelling.
Yeah. And when situations like this come up, it's also good to examine your contracts about success. We talked about contracts in our last episode. It's like things you've been told about success that you haven't necessarily decided on yourself. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, in order to be successful, I have to do these things. Could be a contract, right?
Yeah.
And it can be a time to say, what do I really believe about success? That person may have moved up ahead of me, but what have I done in this company to do good things, right? And how am I making a difference where I am? Stuff like that. And then lastly, some people really are never taught as children what is enough, or they had underprivileged childhoods and so never had the resources they needed. So it's just good to try and learn, like, am I someone that's always taking too much for myself? Or do I believe I'm not worthy of things and not willing to take things for myself? Yeah. I think those are good things to examine, and meeting with a therapist can be really helpful to examine those things.
Agreed. One example that came to mind before we wrap up, and it was the first one of someone who doesn't know when enough is enough, and, like, again, the balance there.
Yeah.
Fictional character, it's Dudley Vernon.
Oh, yeah.
Of Harry Potter. Because he's just the spoiled brat.
And he just was never really taught better.
No. Because his parents modeled really hurtful, rude, selfish, harmful behavior.
Yeah.
Right? Like, being so dismissive and critical of Harry. Anyway, so it's kind of like, you give what you get. Mm-hmm. And as you keep learning and maturing, you can figure out, oh, there's a better way. And there is a better way. There's a better way for mental health. There's a better way for relationships. There's a better way for just living life in intentional ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Jealousy and envy. All right.
Yeah. Use them to build a better life for yourself and better relationships and a better, more fair world for everyone.
Yeah. Change the world, people.
That's right.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Bye.